Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. It is my honor to have our guest today. We actually had a chance to chat, and I deeply appreciate her and her message. And so it is with honor that I want to thank Doc for coming and sharing such precious commodity, which is time. Many of us, as I've said before, do not know how to utilize that commodity until we find ourselves facing the eternal realm. But I want to thank you for your time. The other is your journey. It housed who you were and made you who you are today. And we are honored that you're welcome to come and share that so that we can partake of your journey so that we also can grow and become better human spirits while we're here on this planet. Doc, welcome to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ken, for this opportunity. It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you so much.
I am so looking forward to our conversation. I want you to tell the people some of those things that you have given birth to at this time. And I tell them, I always say that phrase at this time because I know folks like yourself and myself is that as we gain more revelation as to who we are then able to put it out and bring it so it changes as we grow. So tell them that what you have given birth so far in your journey.
Okay, so before beginning, I would like to introduce myself. My name is
Yes.
Praveena. Praveena, I'm a certified mental health and awareness practitioner. So, what have I given birth to? Currently, I have a program called the Narcissistic Victim Empowerment Technique Framework. I help people who have experienced a traumatic childhood growing up with narcissistic parents. So this is what currently that I'm doing in my life journey right now,
Mhm.
helping people to come out of this traumatic childhood where they've grown up in a toxic environment being with narcissistic parents.
That is a powerful message. And I've mentioned to you, it is a needed one because we are seeing some changes within our society and we're hearing the conversation about narcissists and all of this is crescendoing, if you will. You hear this thing begin to rise as you look and see all the different people that are partaking in it. So you must have had some experience with this. So what we do here at Threads of Enlightenment, Doc, is to go back because you had mentioned childhood trauma. And we usually start there with our guests to walk with us. Um, your childhood, tell us a little about yourself as to your first place by which you reside as a human spirit being here on this planet. What was your family unit like? What was your house like?
Okay, so my journey began with me not knowing where I came from. So that would be, if that's the question that I would like to answer, is I am an adopted child.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know this truth in a very painful manner. It was um, it was quite excruciating in that sense that when my parents told me this, my current parents told me this, they said that I have to be grateful for whatever that has been given. So let me begin, Ken, with saying that life did not make sense to me even at a very, very young age. I had to wake up and think about how am I going to survive this day. I was at a very, very young age when I had this thought process simply because any wrong word or any wrong action will trigger a sort of a chaos at home,
Mm-hmm.
and it will always end up with me being blamed by saying that I'm not a grateful child. This was at a very young age. I still remember it's probably around 7 or 8 years old when I started realizing there's something not right.
Yeah.
And every day I have to wake up articulating my conversation. I have to play this in my mind. What am I going to say to mom? Okay, if I say this, is she going to get angry or not? Or is there something
Mm-hmm.
going to go wrong somewhere? No, that kind of what they call it as trading on eggshells.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
what how life was for me since a very young age. And in case if something goes wrong, I will constantly be reminded. Even if there's nothing wrong in that particular day, it's about to end, I'll constantly be reminded, saying that the only best thing that has happened to you in life is we being your parents. You are adopted, you've been brought to us, and you have to show gratefulness, appreciate. You have to appreciate what we have done for you, and those kind of conditioning thoughts has
Yeah.
been instilled in me at a very very young age. And what I have developed personally from this journey from the very beginning is to try to prove them wrong, to
Mm.
try to prove that I'm worthy. And how I've coped up with this is by a term called fawning, which is people pleasing. I got to know about this at a later stage of my life,
Yeah.
where I try to please them at every possible way, to not make any mistakes, to excel in studies. Even if there was something wrong with me at that day at the school when I'm being bullied,
Yeah.
I will not say those things. I will come back home and pretend to be a person that I'm not, because showing moods in my family is not allowed. I cannot be resisting what my mother has asked me to do or my dad has asked me to do. It is something that I had to live a constant fake life
Yeah.
from time to time. And at one point of a time, Ken, when you keep on pretending to be who you are not, it becomes very tiring. Life becomes so, you become very tired, and it's so disappointing to even start the day. There's so
Hmm.
much of fatigue, so much of depression, so much of anxiety, panic attacks. And my only solace at that time, this is even before being a teenager, that age span of 7 to 12, is just to cry. And I used to call out to the universe. I don't know at that time. I will just say, is this all there is to life? Maybe I was a bit more matured in that sense because of all
Hmm.
this conditioning. I used to call out to that an invisible presence, saying that is this all there to life? I mean, sometimes I just feel that I don't want to wake up, and life goes on day to day. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to tread on eggshells and move on with life just like that, Ken.
And you did this all the way into, as you're moving through, you said a young girl, seven or so, and dealing with this intense trauma, the verbal communication from your family, um, and it began to affect you, and you began to internalize it. And as you're moving through your life and going into school, how did you deal with that um, trauma from the home? How did you deal with others in relations to you with them? How did you communicate to them? What were your thoughts and feelings towards others outside of your family?
Oh, when I started having this chaos at home, when I went out, I turned out to be a snobbish person, very arrogant in that sense. I I tend to belittle people. When I bring in this, I try to show off that I'm good. It is
Yeah,
all an internalization
yeah,
process, because
hmm,
I had to prove myself worthy somehow. So when
yeah,
I go out, I try to be the best in everything. I try to do many things. I was a bookworm. I had very little friends because people don't want to talk to me. I try to intimidate them. I can't do this at home, because
yeah,
at home,
yeah,
people, when I try to say something, mother will somehow rather come up with a comeback statement to put me really low. Then I have to go to the corner and cry. But when I go to school, people see me and they get intimidated. So it's that's the payback time that I get, you see, when people, I do not have that many friends and I'm okay
Yeah.
with it. I'm exclusive.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's that is a sort of a coping mechanism that I had. And
Yeah.
true enough, because I needed to prove myself worthy, or else if my report card is of bad grades, I might get some sort of a thrashing and verbal humiliation, which I cannot even dare to think about right now. But I wanted to prove myself worthy, so I got good grades. I excelled in school. There was no question in that. My mother and father used to brag about me all the time. That is my coping mechanism. I had to
Hmm.
channel it in a way that they have to be happy about me, and I don't mind having no friends. So this snobbish, arrogant, um, sarcastic being, yeah, that
Yeah.
was who I was growing up, being a child growing up into teens. That was
Yeah.
who I was.
So when your parents, when they began to brag on you with this one specific area being your grades, how did it make you feel? Because again, you wanted to please them. What did it do to you when you heard them um, bragging, if you will, about your accomplishment in that area?
I did. I was so happy. The only thought that I had in my mind at that time was to be the best daughter in the world. It's
Yeah.
always a metaphor for me because my mother said I'm always the best mom in the world. So I conditioned myself thinking that I have to be the best daughter in the world. So when my mother bragged, I became even more excited about it, and I did so many things to please her. But however, Ken, the the turning point here is that no matter however much I've done a great achievement for the day, example, I came back home and said that I scored full in all my test marks. I scored a
Mhm.
100 here, 100 there in maths and science and this and that. And at the end of the day, she will come up with one statement saying that, remember, this is all because of us.
Uh,
Don't go around thinking that you're so great. This is all because of us. If not for us, you would have been in an orphanage still. You wouldn't have had an identity. So this is the statement that I hear every day.
yeah.
With whatever achievement, whatever major event that has happened, at the end of the day, I will still get this statement. So it gives me that lack feeling, that
Mhm.
that sense of not feeling good enough. Maybe I've not done enough. That is why she keeps on reminding me of this. Maybe I need to do more. I constantly try to seek that self-worth and self-validation.
Yeah.
That yeah, that statement brought me down back to earth, you would say. Yeah.
That's a cruel thing to say to a young person, to anyone, because if that person is not strong enough, and looking at you and the fact that you're here today, you were strong enough. Some people will internalize that and turn on themselves in the sense where they began to hurt themselves. And some people even commit suicide because of words like that. And so that is one of the reasons why I'm so glad you're here, so that those that are listening to this conversation will not feel that they're alone. There is someone that you can hold hands with, and I'm sure Doc wouldn't mind holding hands with you and walking with you to help you out. So this girl is migrating. She's growing up. She is having some difficulty relaying and dealing with people. Now you're moving forward and you're heading into college, if you will. What made you pick the field of study that you did? Um, what was that conversation, whether it's an internal one with you or someone else? What was it that caused you to go towards that field?
So in an attempt to prove myself worthy,
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I shall not be dependent on them for
Mm-hmm.
any means, especially financial assistance. From the
Yeah,
place where I come from, private education is expensive. It's very
yeah,
expensive. and we had to strive to get the government seat.
Mm.
Public education is cheap and it's affordable, and it's also exclusively limited in that sense. So growing up, I decided that I should be the one, being self sufficient. I should not be
Yeah,
depending on my dad or my mom for any sort of financial assistance, and I should prove that I can do this. That again, that self seeking validation
yeah,
manner came into me, and that's how I managed to get this good grades, and to come up with a good testimonial. So I got an entrance to the public university, and without just using solely my grades
yeah.
with my achievement and things. So that's how I got into the public university. That was my first step.
Hmm.
Internally, I was very happy,
Yeah,
although I couldn't say that out loud, because she will
yeah,
come up with
yeah.
some sort of a statement to just counterattack that. But till the very end, I did not depend on my dad or mom for any sort of financial assistance for my education. So even in that, it was actually a creepy sense of delight. I would like to admit that.
Yeah,
When she keeps on saying that it's because of us, it's because of us. I was like, my education, my things is not because of you. But I say this to myself.
yeah, it
I
is.
mean, it's kind of creepy in that sense, but yeah, I had to do it. It's a survival mode thing that we get into. So I did not depend on my parents for financial assistance. Even that was also being spoken in public by my mom when she sees relations and all. It's like, oh, this girl, she did it all by herself. But then at the back, oh, because
Yeah,
we gave you a life like this, or else you wouldn't even have get this university education. There's some statement
yeah,
that will come to put herself or
yeah.
himself at the forefront. It's always like that, Ken. So yeah,
Wow.
so to counterattack that, I managed to get into the tertiary education without the financial assistance. So that was a personal achievement for me.
Yeah, I don't think it was creepy. I think it was brave, and it showed your determination, and it helped you to propel yourself out the beginnings, if you will, from under the control. And you saw that, and you reveled in it internally, which you should have because of where you came from. All of this you mentioning your mother. What was your relationship with your father? Was it any different, or was it similar that you were having with your father, with same as your mom?
Honestly, Ken, I couldn't remember my father in any of this simply because he was not involved.
Yeah,
The dynamics in our family is as such that mom must be made happy. Mom is happy, everyone else is happy. You get that?
yeah,
So So that will put me and my brother as the shield so that he
yeah,
stays at the back.
yeah,
So it's always us getting that brunt of mom's thrashing or harsh words, because dad always keeps himself protected by making his children as a shield. Now, when
yeah,
you come to think about it, saying this right now, I'm so detached from the whole situation. I can say it with a smile, but
yeah.
if it was 20 years ago and I say this to people, it's actually it's it's a very, very painful thing to say, because you have adopted a being, a
Hmm.
helpless being that looks upon you for guidance, and who in their right mind would actually put their children in the face of trouble.
Yeah,
How would you see a child being trashed and spoken to with disrespect, vulgarity, and abuse, and you stand behind and see the whole thing without reacting?
yeah,
It sounds not right, isn't it? It sounds very cruel. But right now I can see my dad for who he is. He was also trying to escape the situation.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so
It's funny how
yeah.
the dynamics with parents, and how, because I totally understand the structure of the family unit. So here you are, you've achieved much. I mean, this is a major milestone within a young girl. that a family constantly reminded her of, or putting her in her place, if you will. And this young girl internalized and she's pushed through. She made this major accomplishment. You're now in school and you got there, and by your school and your wits and your mind, now that you're there in school and you're getting to meet all of these people, different culture, different belief systems, how did they line up with yours as you were having conversation with them in school? And I'm sure they're talking about their family and you're sitting there listening. How was those type conversation and what did it do to you, Doc, being away from that situation but still connected, if you will?
So at first, I was homesick. When
Mm,
I'm in this trap, I'm fakely attached to my mom or dad, would say. Because
yeah.
without them, there's a lost. I
Yes.
lost that rope. So when they sent me to the hostel, I was actually the most homesick child. I was crying constantly. It was so embarrassing. It was
Uh,
then, and I saw other kids were perfectly normal. They had perfect conversations with their parents. They don't cry every time like me. It's like I've lost something huge in my life. If I think about that moment, it's kind of embarrassing right now. But yes, and after some time, I kind of gelled into the environment. I noticed that kids, my friends, my university mates, they were having conversation freely.
mhm.
What I mean is that when I want to say something, I internalize that conversation, and
Yeah.
I'm so afraid to speak simply
Yeah.
because I'm afraid that I might say the wrong sentence or the wrong statement and I might be made a fool.
Yeah.
That's how I was. And when I see people communicating, when I see they were very independent, they had so many things in their life which I never had. And
Mhm.
it's an eye opener. And that's when I started to slowly come out of the shell. But Ken, the worst thing is I had to still live with white lies because I'm
Yeah.
embracing this new freedom, you see. So whenever I get a
Yeah.
call from home, there's another story.
Yeah.
So I've adapted to that white lie kind of a life.
Yeah.
So that was a little hilarious at that time. But I started enjoying, oh, this is how life is without my parents constantly reminding me of something. At times I was brave enough not to take their calls, although
Yeah.
that was also a big guilty
Yeah.
feeling inside. Oh my God, I'm not answering my mom and dad. But then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started getting used to that life. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you began to change the filter, if you will, because you came out and you were filtering your thoughts home, dealing with your family, as you began to unclick those little pieces to unfilter, to take away all of the filters, and you are migrating towards a more of a open-minded, speaking your mind and your internal voice, giving it a chance to truly speak. As you began to move there, do you kind of remember the the time around where your filters were released and you were able to now communicate, where you gave yourself permission to speak honestly from the internal you? Do you remember that time, and what was it that these situations that brought you to that place where you were be able to speak unfiltered, if you will?
So I was most expressive at work. So now I'm done with graduation. I'm now at work. I was
Mm-hmm.
most expressive at work. I was much more free with people outside than when I'm inside the house. So when I came back after graduation and stuff, I continued my tertiary education, masters and doctoral degree after that. But now I was at home. So now I'm leading a double life. It was no more the hostel life anymore. Now I'm leading
Yeah.
a double life. At outside, I'm this talkative, always laughing at silly jokes, and I make silly jokes as well. I that was a different personality altogether. But when I'm
Yeah.
back home, I
Mhm.
have to portray myself as a person who is always ready to listen to my mom
Yeah.
or to my dad. So it was a double personality. My life was getting a bit tiring. It was kind of
Yeah.
a depression, anxiety, that kind of a thing. And there was also a major dip in my life after that. So after graduation, I started working and I did my part-time studies in that sense for masters and all. And dad lost his contract. His contract ended and it was not renewed. And now the family's responsibility, the whole family's responsibility has fallen on my shoulders. It
Mm.
was a big burden, but as you know me, it was again another creepy sense of delight. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
finally! My brother was studying and my mom was not working and she's a housewife and dad lost his job and I told bravely, don't worry, I'm here, I can take care. So Ken, you wouldn't imagine this. I took multiple jobs. I was doing
Wow.
my doctoral, and at that time I
Yeah.
was a tutor, I was an insurance agent. I did so many things. There were two things here. One, because I wanted to support the family.
Hmm.
Second, because I wanted to be out of the house as much time as possible.
Yeah.
So it kind of got a bit painful because mom now became very toxic. So she can
Yeah.
easily say words without thinking, and it there's a lot of toxic energy in that environment. You know, when you
Yeah.
stay
Yeah.
at the house for quite some time with people constantly spewing toxicity, you will feel that the
Hmm.
environment is so dark
Yes.
and you wouldn't want to spend your time there. So I got out as much time as possible. But it did not end there because I was going on a burnout at that sense.
Yeah.
I had to manage multiple things and things were not right. And one day I was having a sleepless night. I was finishing a research and I was having a sleepless night. The next day I had to go early and she was screaming at my ears. You know, you're a useless daughter. Until that day, she was
Hmm.
calling me a useless daughter. I was supporting the family. I was doing this, doing that, and she was like, she will always say this. Don't think you're doing something great. You see, you know, we have done so much
Um,
for you. This is nothing. What you're doing is nothing. By the time I got used to it, it's kind of a usual dialogue, and I just walked out. That one day she called me. I was so dazed. I was about to, I had lack of sleep, and there was so many deadlines for me to meet, and she called when I was driving and said that you are always a useless daughter, shrieking at my ears so loud. At that time, I actually had a suicidal thought. I was like, I can't
wow.
take this anymore. How much more? What more can I do? What more can I do to prove myself? I was speeding through. There was this long trailer in front of me. I thought maybe I could just ram into this and just let me end my life. This is just one spot. I'm
Wow.
gone. And I did that. And at that moment, there was a loud, commanding voice telling me to stop. It was so
Hmm.
loud and commanding, I heard it ringing in my ears, stop. And what happened was the car eventually stopped.
Wow.
But the thing here is, the turning point here is, it was not a magic kind of a thing. I forgot to fill in the fuel. My sedan ran out of fuel.
That is a magical thing, don't you think? I mean, what you were about to do, I think it's a magical thing.
I was so sleepy. I forgot to fill in the fuel and I wanted to commit suicide. And I had my mom shrieking at my ears. It was so many things at that one point. And yeah,
That is a
yeah,
beautiful story, dog. You know, it is a beautiful story, I think.
yeah. Since
So here
then,
you are,
I
because I
became,
was going to ask you, when did it, how
yeah.
did the crash and burn happen? Because I knew it's going to happen. So when you crashed and burned, what happened? We saw that the attempted suicide, that blessing that the gas was not there, absolute blessing, you know. When that space happened, I knew things began to change there. What did you begin to change right there, Doc, realizing I was about to kill myself? The gas is gone. I got saved. What? How do I live from here now? What do I do?
That voice gave me a confidence that I'm always
Mm-hmm.
guided. I don't
Yeah.
know whether many will resonate with this, but that is the truth.
Yeah.
The voice that has come has given me a chance to relive life. It felt like that it was a moment of rejuvenation, and it gave me a lot of clarity in that sense. That
Yeah.
we are always guided, and there's someone that's looking after us, and everything that has happened is not because of chance. There must be a reason why I'm going through this. So I
Yeah.
accepted that as it is, and I started living life being much more indifferent in that sense. I started not
Mm-hmm.
processing the words, or it was more like if you splash water on me, I was like, yeah, okay, and I'll just move on. That's what the
Yeah.
voice gave me, to not burden my mind and thoughts with a lot of chaos. I
Yeah.
started being indifferent. So it gave me a lot of clarity, it gave me a lot of focus. And after a few years, I was at a marriageable age.
Mm-hmm.
As Asian parents, it is their responsibility to find a groom. That's what my parents thought. But in my family dynamics, it's not a right thing to give them to find a groom.
Yeah.
As you
Yeah.
already know, they have very peculiar criteria
Yeah.
whereby the groom should be just next door, should be within that
Mm-hmm.
residential area. And I was like, this is so not going to happen. So I
When
found that
you
as a ticket to escape. Yeah.
good, you found your ticket to escape. How did you when you make that decision to escape? How did you
Simple.
feel? What happened?
Oh, it was simple, Ken. So they started finding a groom for me. And because I'm
Mm-hmm.
so used to, living like this, I used to go out and all. I told my friends, my parents are looking for someone. Do you guys know anyone? It was just me promoting myself. I'm at a marriageable
Yeah.
age. Do you it was kind of hilarious at that time. Before my
Yeah.
mom ends up with someone who's just like me, I
Yeah.
got an idea that they were looking for a guy who was just like me,
Yeah.
listening to the parents and not saying anything about it. So my friend introduced me to my current husband. He's
Mm-hmm.
my life partner right now,
Yeah.
and we got to know each other. Even the dates were with white lies. I was saying something else and I was doing something else, just so you know. And
Yeah.
he's a wonderful person. And finally, after so many years, I actually found the courage to speak up to my mom, saying that this is the person that I found, and this
Mm-hmm.
is who I want to live my life with. And she was hysterical.
Yeah.
She and dad, both of them were hysterical, and they started cursing and all sorts of vulgarity, abuse, this and that. Because of this clarity that I have in mind, this newfound clarity, I did not give a damn. I just moved on. And
Yeah.
I said, I am funding my marriage, man. Why
Yeah.
must I listen to this? And I just walked out. I just
Yeah.
walked out. Not to say that that ended there. Even with me leaving them after marriage, it was still, that total escapade was not there. I was still having
Yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
guilt and all this. It took me some time to recover.
Yeah.
After marriage was when I discovered the term narcissism. Before that, I
Yeah.
did not know there was such a thing.
Yeah.
So
You
with
took
the
control
term,
away from them. You started taking control because a narcissist, one of the things that they value and love is absolute dominance or control over people. And so as you began to slowly strip that away from them, no wonder that the last major thing about you choosing your husband, I knew from the cultural side of it, you were breaking all kinds of rules on top of the fact that they're narcissists. It must have been a wonderful conversation that they had with you when you walked out, and it colored with so much flattery. I want to say. So when you got there, Doc, because I could tell, I'm laughing because I know how important that is in the culture. And then on top of what you did, taking in the fact that they are narcissists, you took away one of the major things, as we said earlier, is that control factor that they seek. As you began to gain knowledge, being away from it, and now looking back, what did you begin to see, and how did you begin to recognize you and the changes that were necessary for you to make to begin to um, release yourself 100% from the control, even though there's threads still there, and you have to learn, like you said, it takes time. As you learn, you have to um, cut those threads. What was that like for you, being this woman now, been through so much, and having to make those other final decisions to cut things off?
After getting married, I I discovered this term called narcissism. It was by chance
Yeah,
because even my husband did not understand what was going on. He's
yeah,
never met a personality as colorful as my family, as my parents.
yeah,
So we did not understand what was going on. And it is by chance that I came upon the term narcissism. And when I started reading all the characteristics, the traits, and all the check boxes, everything matched. And I was
yeah.
like, wow, there is such a personality, and there are people who are like my mom
Yes.
out there. And that was actually uh, an eye-opening moment. It was an aha moment for me. That's
Hmm.
when actually things made sense.
Yeah.
All this while I was like sailing through life, moving on. It's okay, fine, she's just like that. But when I managed to put a name to it,
Yeah.
things became so bright and clear, and I decided I have to dive into this. I want to know what this narcissism is, and is
Yeah.
there are there parents who are narcissists? Yes, there are. So I kept
Hmm.
on reading, researching, going through all those terms that I've learned about fawning, flying monkey, projection,
Yeah.
manipulation,
Yeah.
gaslighting, triangulation. Oh my God, it's a whole new library by itself. And when you realize that, slowly, and also with mindset techniques, I also
Yeah.
seek help outside with a life coach and all. When you
Yeah.
have your mindset techniques, there is a way to condition your mind
Yes.
to heal from it.
Yes.
And that's I proactively took steps to get out of this situation, in the sense that it's all internal. When the big truth came out that it's actually
Hmm.
an internalization process, it made it easier for me to come out of this. And I totally snapped out of it. I used to have panic attack when she calls, even after
Yeah.
marriage. I'm
Yeah.
having dinner with my husband and I see her call and I'll be like, oh my God, mom, okay. Okay, don't
Yeah.
make noise. I'm not at home. You're not here. Oh, and my husband was like, you're with me right now, right? What is this? It's so childish. You know,
Yeah.
even after going through all these courses, this life coaching and many other things that I went through, my husband was a great support in that sense. And here I am. And now, when I think back about all those incidents, it
Yeah.
is I wouldn't say I would say it's hilarious. For me personally, that's what I can think of, because
Yeah,
when you say this to someone, people in the same experience was like, how can you say that? It's so painful. Yes,
yeah,
it is painful, but I had to go through it. There must be a reason. There must be a bigger reason behind this. So that's
yeah,
how I got out of it. By understanding, realizing the situation. It's more of
yeah.
an acceptance kind of a thing.
I have a belief that the reason why people go through certain things and the hardships and so forth is because they can be trusted with the journey, meaning that they will submit to the process, to the journey, to come out of the other side because of the purpose. I believe that voice that you heard knew that there are many people that will be in need of what you are going through, and that you would be able to put it into a format by which you will, I believe, what is, as we mentioned before, the ultimate prize that we get to live through and from while we're here on this planet, and that is servant. I believe that the call is for servants, and for one to become a servant, you have to go through these painful situations and issues in life so that when you come out, you can truly empathize with someone that is in that situation. And when you speak to them, you have this beautiful embrace with your words and your love. They can sense that. And when they sense that, they can then relax and allow the healing process through the words that you would offer them, through the energy of comfort, through a smile, a touch, a glance, where they are putting themselves within a state to receive what you have to say. And when you receive what you have to say, it will impact them and move them out. And because you can be trusted, you went through it, so that that type of scenario that I just mentioned will be impactful to help someone else out of their situation. And so that's my belief. I've interviewed thousands of people, and the common thread of the servanthood, I absolutely love that we are able to enjoy that, because life from there is different than life from anywhere else. So here you are, Doc. You were chosen, and you've gone through, you were able to identify what it was, and be able to then begin to study and gather the understanding of it. As you began to gain that knowledge, um, and you began to see, as you said, some of the things within yourself. You mentioned you use tools. You got the teacher, you got the coach, you got. What were some of those other tools that you utilized to help you navigate through the pain of your trauma? What were some of those tools?
Empowerment techniques, mindset calibration.
Mm-hmm.
These are the tools that I've used.
Yeah,
Empowerment techniques simply because as a child, I told you that I had this very strong defense mechanism of proving that I'm
yeah.
worthy. So that
Mm-hmm.
has been ingrained in me. So when I grew up and I started developing this framework for myself, I realized what I had was actually an empowering thing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I had to do is just minus that burden that I associate myself with this empowering technique
Yeah.
by changing that situation to suit yourself and to fuel your personal development and success and growth.
Mm-hmm.
That is the thing that I study deeply into, this empowerment technique. The
Yeah.
second one is mindset recalibration.
Yes.
When somebody says something to you, you're not going to process it internally to say that they are directing it to you and it's because of when somebody says that you are worthless, you are useless, the words is just thrown by them.
Hmm.
But how we take it from there and we process it and we visualize it and we give a whole new picture to it, it's all on us. It's only
Yes.
5% from there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just 1%. I don't know, some sort of a percentage I'm giving there. But the thing
Yeah.
is, the rest of the work is done by us.
Yes. I agree.
So the us is this being here. And when this being is able to control their mind, you just,
Hmm.
or your ability to stop the words
Yes.
from coming to you is all up to you. There's nothing out there that you cannot do.
Yes.
See, so the mindset calibration, all this painful thoughts, negative self-talk, this this anger of wanting to become someone. I would say that I was filled with a lot of anger at that time. I have to
Yeah.
prove myself. I did not do that. Yes, I could have been fueling my self development, but I need
Hmm.
not attach all those emotions to it. So
Yeah.
those are the tools. And third one I would like to add is towards the healing process is to learn how to forgive. I'm
Yeah.
not saying forgive your parents or guardians or whoever that has hurt you. The forgiveness comes within.
Yep.
Forgive yourself for giving yourself such a hard time,
Yeah.
for giving your mind so much of work to do. You have to appreciate yourself first. Forgiveness comes from within. When you're able to forgive yourself, that is when you're able to empathize
Yes.
with your so-called abusers or your parents or your guardians or whoever that is that has been hurting you or that's trying to hurt you, who have hurt you in the past. That is when you'll be able to empathize, because forgiving yourself or forgiveness itself, I would say, it's not a great thing. It is actually a selfish act, because when you
Hmm.
forgive, you let go, and when you let go, you keep your mind and your mental health, your mental well-being in a fresh state. You will
Yeah.
not attach too many emotions to it. You will live a burden-free life. You'll be light. So
Yep.
forgiveness is the the thing that towards the healing journey, it's very, very important.
Guys, those are listening to us. This conversation is really. Doc had just mentioned some of the most powerful tools available in a small conversation. Self-love is one of the most powerful journey you will ever go on. Learning to love yourself and forgiving the self is the most important thing, I believe, in the journey, the first major thing, because when we do that, oh, a new world just opened up right at that space. Jesus had a statement he said to his disciples. He said, take no thought saying, and I remember when I finally understood what he was saying. He was saying, do not take the thoughts of the words that people come. It forms thoughts. He says, take no thought saying. That saying peace is me agreeing with what they're saying. And so when I learned not to agree with what they were saying, it didn't land into me. It just bounced off. I had another internal language going on as they were saying. I would say to myself, you are the most beautiful. You are, and I would encourage myself while they're throwing their stuff. I was talking to me too. I kept saying, no, that's not who you are. This is who you are. And so when you begin to do that, the gift that you get out of that is you learn how to empathize, you learn how to forgive, you learn how to be patient, you learn how to be all of these things with yourself first. And when you are able to express and feel that first, then when anyone presents, you will be able to forgive them because you are the biggest um, monster to yourself than anyone else. And so if you can forgive that person, anyone else you are able to forgive, you're able to love, you're able to empathize, you're able to be patient with. Why? Because you look back to you and you say to yourself, wow, I was a mess. But once you learn that, you have that internal language. The other that you talked about is rewiring your mind. And that is how you start rewinding and rewiring your mind is your thought pattern. You choose which thought you give permission to for you to begin because you start in using powerful tools when you understand this. You started engaging your imagination. The imagination of mankind is one of the most powerful tools out there because what you imagine, you begin to pull towards you energetically. You're pulling it because you are seeing it, and as you begin to see it and crystallize it clearer, it will jump up on you before you even know it. So Doc is talking about a lot of powerful tools within our conversation. And so those of you that are in your situation as Doc is in, those that parents or a husband or a wife or a friend, whatever, dealing with the space of narcissists, I have someone that has studied that particular field and she has some understanding about it because she has personally walked that journey. And so she will be able to spot you from a conversation and she can locate you as to where you are and the words you need to hear to bring you out of that specific space you are in. Why? Because she walked it. And because she walked it, it's all familiar to her. So, Doc, and when you began to put this together, when you began to recognize what you had as you began to move forward in your journey, I know the joy that comes up inside when you start to see those things and you start putting it together. Talk to me about that space when you began to recognize, wait a minute, this can help people. When you started to see that, what did it do to you? And how did you begin to process it to make it into a reality?
Seeing the pattern, and I started developing this steps, techniques, tools, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
I was very excited,
yeah,
very, very excited, in the sense that I can see a pattern.
mhm,
And when I started talking to people, I realized that I was not alone.
yeah,
I had this ability to get people to speak out their problems. For some reason, I hear when people they talk to me, they come and tell their problems, challenges. I don't like to use the word
yeah,
problem. It's
yeah,
challenges, challenges
yeah,
in life. And it's that, hey, I've been there. I mean, I say this in my mind,
yeah,
and I'm not alone. And there are many
yeah,
people out there who needs this. When I say things like do not internalize and things, for those who have not realized it, those who have not recognized it, it is not an easy task to do.
yeah,
They will just say easier said than done. I'm telling you, believe me, I've been there. It now I can say it's easier said than done. But
yeah,
I've been there. I've been through the exact same situation. Whenever somebody says something about narcissism, I was like, oh, I resonate with this. I've been there. So that's when
yeah,
I started packaging this framework and putting it into, into practical steps and guides. And at that time, I was excited about it. I want to share this with people who are still experiencing parental narcissism, who are
yeah,
still experiencing this sort of an abuse. I'm excited to share this message to the world, saying that I've been through this for 3 decades, Ken.
yeah,
I was going through this abuse at an age where I did not even recognize what it was. And to come out of it itself is a journey by its
yeah,
own.
yeah,
But by looking at this framework and develop and looking at these tools and techniques that I've personally used, and I've used it on many others out there, I know for a fact that you can come out of this childhood trauma and
Yeah.
abuse of parental narcissism. It is not an impossible feat. You can come out of it. And because I've been there and I've done that, I have this framework, and with people that I know I can get the person out of the situation. They don't need 3 decades, they don't need 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
It's in a very short
Hmm.
amount of time. I can tell you exactly what you need to do to come out of it. And I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm internally excited about it, saying that I know I can help. For a fact, I
Yeah.
know I can help them because I've seen it. I've gone through
Yeah.
it. Tell me about it. You can just come and tell me, my parents this. I'm going through this. I'm going through this. Like, you can say whatever. I for a fact, I know exactly what to tell you to come out of it. But the
Yeah.
thing is, first step is willingness. I
Yeah.
always emphasize this. People, they tend to find a place to vent out, but the
Hmm.
willingness comes from within.
Yeah.
Only if you have that willingness and say, you are saying this to yourself, enough is enough. I want to come out of this. Because narcissism is a vicious cycle, Ken. One
Yeah.
thing is, you have that desire to come out. But if it's not strong enough, the moment you
Yeah.
take a step out, you start second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
Guilt, shame, and fear will start pulling you back,
Yeah.
because that's how the cycle is. We are always in constant, we are always constantly questioning ourselves, saying that
Hmm.
whether is this the right thing to do? Is this the right thing to do? Because we are conditioned as such from a very young age.
Yeah.
So if the person is willing, the willingness must be there. 100%. I want to be out of this. When you're ready to take that major step, you come to me. I will guide you all along the way. Just tell me what it is. I will tell you exactly what you need to hear to come out of the situation. But one thing you have to promise me is you should not second guess. You should not you should not just say, I am here to vent out my feelings. Everybody has their past, Ken. Everyone has
Yeah.
their memories, their trauma, and things like that. But always remember, whatever that has happened in the past, there is a meaning behind it. There
Yes.
must be a reason why that has happened. There is no point in dwelling in the past and trying to sit at that comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm this, I've been a victim. Self pity is also a killer. So
Yeah.
only if you're ready to take charge, only when you have that willingness, then you come out. When you come out, you hold my hand firmly. I will guide you through it. I will guide you throughout the journey.
I'm gonna leave it there. I mean, um, all of you again who has been listening to our conversation, I implore you to get in touch with Doc. She sent out the message to cry, the desire that is within her for to help you and to bring you from where you are. That is the heart of a servant. And when a servant calls to you and you hear that cry, I would run to them, because that means they are ready to receive you and want to give all of them to you. So I will provide all of the information so that you can reach her, because it's imperative. Be ready, because when you come to her, it's not just a vent, it is to move forward. It takes courage to stay because you're comfortable, but it takes even more courage to go because it is the unknown. But I have someone, guys, that have been to the unknown and know what it looks like beyond staying. And she can guide you so that you do not have to stay and see the pitfalls that took her 30 years. She can guide you where it will probably be a few months that you will be able to see clearly. And when you get there, the freedom that you will experience as an individual, as a human spirit, you will be ecstatic, and you will probably create your own program and be able to become a servant as well. Doc, I want to thank you so much for coming, President Enlightenment. If the people knew the challenges that we had to put this together, um, I am so honored that you stayed because your message is a powerful one. And I want everyone to have access to you so that you can bring them to a new life and freedom from the narcissist world, because it is a big, big need within our society today. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you so much, Ken, for having me. Thank you so very much. I'm really honored.
Thank you.